Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. Apparently, this is the time when Skype decides to crap all over my monitors. So I have these Skype monitors in the side where we're supposed to see each person individually. So now I have to adjust these manually. Yes, indeed. But while I adjust these manually, why don't you guys introduce yourself, starting with Paul. Paul.
Hello, my name is Paulie. I am from Gamers Over 30. I'm a relatively new channel and still trying to find what it is we actually do. A lot of what we do is charity work, and I help out people that really can't afford to build their dream computer and do my best to assist with that process. Yeah, so if anyone needs any assistance with something along those lines, feel free to email me at gamersover30@gmail.com.
All right, and I'm Rowan, and I mainly do YouTube Let's Plays. I'm kind of into the min-maxing, trying to break the game by, crunching the numbers and coming up with the best character builds. So that's really a lot of what I do.
Okay, so our discussion today is really about modding in general. You guys know that I've been huge into modding for a long time. It's actually gone back all the way to Doom, where I was making my own custom maps for it. I continued mapping through into, I would say, I went to Quake, Half-Life, and I stopped making Half-Life maps and just started more or less playing mods rather than making my own at that point. But I would say that apparently the chat is telling me I've got the monitors backwards, so...
Oh, yeah,
yes, I do. There we go. You see, this is what happens when Skype destroys everything. Because I had these monitors perfectly set up, and then when we actually got onto the call, it all broke. Okay, so what I was going to say is, I've been doing, I did mods back in the day. I believe my biggest problem was when I remember back, modding a long time ago. I played a game called Hellgate London, which a lot of people think is garbage, and it was. But these were former Blizzard employees who I actually knew a couple of, and they basically formed a new company called Flagship, and they were determined to get this MMO FPS game out to the masses. Well, I told them flat out, I made better maps than you for Quake in modding. And that was the first time I think I ever noticed, I was comparing mods to an actual gaming product, like the full game. And that is where, that's where my perception of Hellgate London was completely ruined, because I was able to compare something I built personally in a modding environment versus the actual game. And I'm like, your game is garbage compared to the amateur shit I did. And so that kind of elitism grew up from that, I think. And I think that in general, I do that all the time now. I compare mods to actual games. And so when one person, I believe, this whole conversation, first of all, Paul did a discussion on his TeamSpeak, didn't you, Paul?
Yes, I did. There's an interesting story behind that, too.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. But after that, about actually the same day, someone left a comment on my 5 Things I Hate About Skyrim video, which, by the way, is a Nitpick Land episode. I don't actually take any criticism there seriously because I was just nitpicking. The criticism belongs on my subjective fan fiction videos, where I'm actually going into depth on things. But still, because I was suggesting mods to fix some of the problems that I saw with Skyrim, someone flipped out. They said that modding is ruining these games. Like, if you have mods, that's fine, but don't show off your mods like a little ungrateful twat, I believe that he said. And he went on to list about how modding was breaking games. So I thought about it, and it just comes down to, I see a problem with the game, and the unofficial patches fix, like for Skyrim, for Oblivion, for everything. These unofficial patches fix the different mods, or the different bugs and things that are still present in the Xbox and PlayStation versions to this day. So I look at that, and then, but at the same time, it makes us less appreciate the work that the actual Bethesda team did, I feel. And so I look at that, and I'm like, I can kind of see your point, but at the same time, I believe a lot of that is console peasantry. And before, like, people hear the word console peasants, they flip their shit because they think, oh, because I use a console, I'm a peasant. No. When you spread misinformation based on your perceptions, your limited perceptions of just playing on a console, the spreading of misinformation makes you a peasant. That is my working definition of a console peasant, one who spreads misinformation, pretty much. So, yeah. Being a console user does not make you a peasant. Peasantry is when you make statements that you believe are objective, that are factually incorrect. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I believe it's console peasantry, but we've got Pauliem here who's been into modding, and he's actually interviewing some modding people soon. I don't know all the details about that. And Rowan here is looking to do modding in the future, but for the most part hasn't done modding. So I'd like to turn it over to Rowan now, who he can talk about his lack of modding experience or the little things he has modded to date. And that's about it.
First off, I would like to kind of explain why I don't mod. So I am a console peasant. I come from a line of using, just the consoles to starting to use computer only in the last, 3, maybe 4 years. I've really gotten into computer gaming. I grew up with a console because, consoles are cheap. They're, what a lot of parents buy their kids. So it's what I was used to. And with a console, you only have one version of the game. You don't have mods. So a lot of kind of my mentality probably comes from that experience. I want to play the game as it was originally envisioned. I know there's a lot of buggy, mess in Bethesda games, but I still, I value that original experience, that vanilla experience, per se. On my channel as well, I've done a series of, how to, get the at loss for words challenge, one of the hardest challenges in the game. And one of the things that I aimed for is making it relevant to everyone. If I started using mods on my videos, then that video only becomes relevant to the people who have those mods. By keeping it vanilla, it can appeal to anyone who plays the game.
So more of a guide and tutorial vision. You're basically, yes. And if somebody has the a console version, you don't want to alienate them.
Exactly. If you have the mods in there, there's so many mods out there. There's just so very many mods for Fallout New Vegas, which has been my principal game over the past couple of years here. With that, I've had people, I made a ultimate character build guide, and I've had people on that video comment, well, this is useless. Your character sucks. You don't have these perks. And I'm like, those are from mods. Yeah, well, the mods make your character stronger. I'm like, but that kind of defeats the point of me doing this video, because not everyone's going to be using that mod.
I would have to agree. Here's the thing. Whilst I do use perk mods myself, you would have to balance that out with difficulty mods in order to not just, wreck everything.
Absolutely. I strongly feel that, the developer's vision of the game is what I want to play. Now, I'm not opposed to mods. I'm definitely not in the camp that says you're ruining games by putting mods on. But I see a certain, almost beauty to playing the game as it was originally intended. I get to experience it in all its, original glory or, shame, depending on the case. One of the things that, in a way, I kind of had a lot of fun with on Fallout New Vegas is coming up with ways to circumvent the game-breaking bugs. I spent a lot of time trying to get around bugs. So, not for everyone, obviously, but I enjoyed it. It was a certain appeal to me, I guess.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, what I can see from your perspective anyway is that there are guides and things that you can do that I certainly couldn't. I mean, I'm almost cutting my user base in a quarter, because when you think about it, especially with Skyrim and now Fallout 4, I mean, I know you aren't playing Fallout 4 actively right now, but if I go all in modding into Fallout 4, console users won't be able to use any of the script extender mods. Now, keep in mind that according to Bethesda, they are going to get console modding out, at least for the Xbox. And so we're kind of excited about that. But I know deep down that all the graphics enhancing mods, anything that replaces DLLs, and anything that requires a script extender is not going to work on the consoles. And I know that, like, to do all the really cool stuff, that's what's going to be required. So I'm looking at it like, regardless, my content will never be relevant to console players. And so you have naturally a larger user base. Now, I'd almost, not to critique your YouTube channel too much, but I think you need to simplify a little bit. No, I mean, no, seriously. Like, there is a balance between quantity and quality. If you go balls to the wall quality and there's nobody watching it, well, congratulations.
Absolutely.
So, balance it out a little more, and but you've got the larger base of people to draw from than me, period. And I think that if you keep on the road you're doing, at least unmodded guides, and then you go for like maybe a modded Let's Play every once in a while, which is completely different from guides.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. If anything, I'd recommend looking at Mod Organizer or a program like that. That lets you sort your mod loadouts and basically have one loadout that is pure vanilla and the other one that has some mods in it. If anything, maybe an E&B wouldn't be too bad if you get a higher end computer, but that's about it really. I can't think of anything else you would want. So,
that actually also makes another interesting point, kind of, with the modding. Modding and the reason like channels like yours, Eric, are successful is because modding can be difficult for the uninitiated to get into. It's very overwhelming if you've never done it. So if it sounds kind of cool to you and then you go to do it and you're like, oh man, this is confusing, you're gonna give up on it pretty quick. I remember I actually did try modding once, like long ago, and I got overwhelmed really quick and was just like, this is too much. I'm just gonna go back to the non-modded game. It makes more sense to me. So things that you do are, you do like your tutorials on how to, and how to use some of the mods and stuff. And that's definitely one of the things that has brought you great success, is people that are interested in modding come to channels like yours to kind of learn more about it.
Well, I'm gonna be honest here. Just this is something that a lot of people don't get, is that Gopher beat me to the punch. The Step Project beat me to the punch. Everything I've done, every review I've done, Bro Duel, MXR, they've all beaten me to the punch. What I do is I'm on a webcam. I say things straight to the camera. And I take all the information I've gained from all these other channels, and I condense it down into a form that is just do this, do that, do that. Whereas, say, Gopher is incredibly in depth. If you want a good understanding of what you're doing, go see Gopher. Go see Gamer Poets. These different channels are great for understanding what you're doing, but there are a lot of people who don't want to thoroughly understand it. They just want it done. And so that's what my stabilizing Skyrim video, for instance, just do this, do that, it's done. You know, like
you're the abridged version.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean,
modding for dummies.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people who don't realize that this isn't original content. It's stuff that other people have already done. It's just that I'm able to explain it in a different way that resonates with more people. Not more people for who has seen it. So. Now, Autoclock says he prefers my channel because I'm not a pussy, and that's damn right. But I'm going to go ahead now. I believe Pauliem hasn't been on the spot for a while, so let's ask him what his experiences with modding in general are.
So, I've been modding Skyrim for probably the last, 4 years or so. I originally did play it on a console. I used to come home from work every Friday and Saturday night. Me and my daughter would sit down and we would play the hell out of Skyrim on PS3. And believe it or not, we actually put like 350 hours into the game. So I used modding originally to extend the life of a game that I absolutely love. I don't care for the non-lore friendly mods like the stupid Macho Man Randy Savage as a dragon mod. The closest I get are like the slutty armor mods for the women and things like that. The closest I get to non-lore friendly. But the people that say that it destroys games, and I understand where they're coming from in some sense. Right now I'm doing a playthrough with Skyrim Redone, and it's a whole different experience. I'm using Skyrim Redone and the Hunterborn. And I haven't done a single quest for the actual game. I started off with the alternate start, live another life, end up in the middle of the woods somewhere, and I'm just going out hunting animals and selling their pelts. So it's a completely different game for me now. I'm not even bothering with the main storyline. The last playthrough I did was strictly all quest mods. I installed the top 25 quest mods and just played them. And again, totally different game. I don't get why people get so up in arms. The whole reason I did that entire discussion the other day on my TeamSpeak is I get an invite from some random person to join a Skyrim group on Facebook. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. Talking back and forth with the guy for a little bit, and it turned out to be somebody that was trolling me really bad. And I get invited into this group. They ask me to post a picture of my character, not even paying attention. The name of the group was like Skyrim Untouched or Unaltered or something like that. And I got berated by all these people talking about how I'm what's wrong with video games and I destroy video games. And, like I invented the first mod and I was such a horrible person because I mod Skyrim. And I couldn't even get a word across to explain to them my point of view as to why I use mods. So I personally think mods are a great thing because without mods, I would have stopped playing Skyrim in 2012.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah, getting invited to a hate group, congratulations. Skyrim Untouched. That sounds pretty damn stupid, actually.
Yeah.
I've always seen modding because I went back to, again, Doom, where the first game I modded, where I was actually building my own levels for it. You see, what ended up happening is Doom modding pretty much took off early on. People were making their own custom modules. There were actual development kits coming out, different programs that actually allowed more variation in the levels than the developers' tools allowed, which was crazy. But these custom, I believe they were called iWads, basically, because a WAD would add extra levels to the game, and the iWads would replace the entire main game. And I played so many custom deathmatch games and all kinds of fun stuff, and I have never once felt that the original game was being ruined because I could always go back to the original. But then again, it wasn't... How do I put this? I have never encountered, aside from an occasional YouTube comment, a group of people who was very anti-modding, and I couldn't see like the longevity, as you were saying, Paul, of playing a game for a long period of time without mods. It just, once you've exhausted all the things that game has to offer, the typical experience for a gamer is to play a game until you've played all the content, then you quit and you move on to the next game. And that's how the gaming industry works. That's how they push units. The game is irrelevant now. I love Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, but I found every single challenge point in the game. I mastered it. I mastered it on Jedi difficulty, for God's sakes. So then we move on to the next game. And I think that the only reason we don't with Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind, all these games is because we are able to extend their life by adding new content. And these games, these sandboxes are open-ended to begin with, where you can play through the game 4 or 5 times. But if you think about it, you're able to play through it again with completely new skill trees and completely new this and that, and it just... some of you have seen Ordinator versus Requiem versus Skyrim redone. Every single one is practically a unique experience, although in the same world. So, that's what I think. Do you have anything to add, Paul?
No, I basically said my piece on it. That's about it.
Okay.
That is really concerning to hear that there's this hate group for modders, because I may not mod, but I can understand why people would want to. And why isn't there room for both types of gamers to exist? A lot of people that get into modding are future game developers.
That's right.
A lot of these game developers, wouldn't exist if they hadn't gotten into this whole modding thing. It's usually that spark of creativity. You want to take what you love and do something with it.
Yes, so, Rise of the Triad was a game that wouldn't have existed had one of the developers of Doom gotten pissed, left the team, and got with a couple modders and basically made his own game. In fact, the storyline for Rise of the Triad was originally what was supposed to be in the Doom Bible. He wrote the story for Doom, and then the guys at id Software were like, we don't want to use this. Games should be more like porn. They're here for the action, And so they threw out his script, and he went and he took the script and he wrote he made Rise of the Triad with a few modders. But if the modders hadn't existed, to my knowledge, he wouldn't have had his team not as easily.
Which, actually, thinking of, there's a game I remember hearing about that's being crowdfunded, that's done by just a group of former Skyrim modders. I'm gonna see if I can find that.
Well, there's also, is it DayZ that was an Arma 2 mod? That's now one of the biggest games on.
Yeah. Red Orchestra.
Access.
Red Orchestra was originally a mod. If we want to get into what was mods,
Counter-Strike.
Let's talk about Team Fortress, which was a mod for Quake. And I poured hours into that. I went to a thing called Fortress Fest, for God's sakes. That was huge back in the day. Then the developer got hired by Valve and to produce Team Fortress Classic. Team Fortress 2 was in development for years. They ended up throwing out all the assets, said this Team Fortress 2 is kind of like Counter-Strike, it's not good. And so they created a new Team Fortress 2 using assets from Half-Life 2's development. And that's what Team Fortress 2 became, was it became its own stylized world, and they threw out the aliens. For a while, they were actually going to put aliens as like an enemy team in Team Fortress 2, and that came back later. It came back later. But, it's just, the point is that all this development, an entire franchise, based off a mod for Quake. And would I say that if it was a competitive type of match, I mean, like, if you use mods to break games, more or less, those are hacks. That's a completely different thing. And I have, for the most part, early on when I was trying to explain, because, you can't really pick who you meet in real life. I mean, you can, but, to a limited extent. Well, some of the people that I had met on the job a few years ago were people who didn't understand modding. They're like, why would you make your game, like, why are you installing cheats and making your games easier? Like, no, I'm making it harder. I install mods where my character dies in one hit. Like, so...
I think a huge problem with modding is ignorance. I'm sure many people who are in the chat has seen the Stone Fox Media video where he goes on a rant about, console commands in Fallout 4. And it's people like him that just spread pure ignorance. You don't have to use console commands. I don't use console commands. I mean, if I'm bored and I want to go in and screw around and just do nothing productive in a game, I'll use console commands. But to say that they're just put there so you can cheat and that everyone who plays on PCs cheat, that's why people have issues with modding.
I went ahead and put a masterpiece. If you guys look into the webcam there, can you see what I have up right now?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, indeed. You can see how happy I am there.
Yes.
Let me take a shot of Fireball, and then we'll talk about him a little more. Okay.
I'm still trying to find this game I was talking about. So, I'll let you know if I find it here.
All right. Well, yeah. The point is that he doesn't like. Okay, number one, he's trying to get views. He's trying to he's being inflammatory, and let's face it. I've done similar things. With Skyrim, I was inflammatory in my Nitpickland videos where I suggested that Bethesda was being racist against Khajiits. And so, obviously, that is bullshit, and that's why the, how do I put this? That's why I actually did my fan fiction videos, which, I'd take as more serious than my Nitpickland videos, because my Nitpickland videos are just me feigning rage over things that don't really matter to me. I mean, I try to be constructive with the fan fiction ones, but those piss people off just as much. The idea that I would criticize their favorite games, the rage is real. But yeah, Stone Fox Media, from what I can tell, is just pushing to get views, and he has a PC now, and if he actually embraced it, he could do all kinds of things with it. I don't see him doing that, not with his current direction, but you'd be surprised. There are a few reformed console peasants, quote-unquote former console peasants out there. And remember,
this guy.
Just remember that I don't define peasantry as someone who plays on consoles. I define peasantry as someone who spreads misinformation about, PC versus console from a limited console perspective.
Such as Stone Fox.
Stone Fox.
I would hardly say he has a PC. He has an Alienware Area 51.
Alienware, not PCs.
I was going to say that Alienware is... how do I put that? I got an Alienware laptop. We're talking about, like, it was the size of a full keyboard. Like, that's how wide it was. I got that back as a graduation present for high school. And it was good for about 3 years, and then it quickly was outstripped by every single desktop in the world. But yeah, I mean, my personal experience, I would never buy an Alienware. I had one. It was overpriced, but fun. And if I had massive amounts of disposable income, I would probably have a custom-built laptop from another company. I'm sorry,
yes,
but that's... Yeah.
That's my next step, is a custom built laptop.
Exactly. So, but I mean, you can look at all these other people, and they break down to either spreading misinformation specifically for the purpose of garnering views, or spreading misinformation based on their own ignorance, such as who is that guy who was shouting, yeah, basement dwelling virgins, like they're living in their mother's basement.
Which one?
Which one exactly?
See,
I don't know.
Gamer.
I've got a fiance. Zarek's married.
Yeah, exactly. Paul, you're married, right? You have a kid?
I have 2 kids. And
Yeah.
Well, technically 3. I consider the wife a child.
Okay, so yes, the point is that we are all, we're all in steady relationships. I've been married for 7 years, and Top Hats and Champagne, someone who Paul and I both watch on occasion. Paul more than me, but definitely we all do. I would say that he's married happily, and so what it comes down to is, yeah, I mean, bullshit, just bullshit.
Yeah, fuck that. I live in my mother's attic. They gotta get shit straight.
So I would like to make a solid point here. So with the cheats thing, all right, let me tell everyone a quick story.
Okay.
Fallout New Vegas. This is before I did YouTube. This is before I even had a gaming PC. I spent probably about 2 years playing Fallout New Vegas, trying to get everything on there. Because when I play games, I try to get 100% perfect game. Like, we're talking, I don't want to miss any quests, any items, anything like that. Due to a glitch completely outside of my control, a character that I needed to talk to for a quest had fallen through the mesh of the world and was just non-existent. It was that day.
Let's put it like this. Let me ask you, how many hours did you put into that playthrough before you noticed this glitch?
I was at 825 hours.
Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see here.
We're talking hold on. Every single item I had picked up in the game.
Yeah, I'm going calc. Let's see. Okay, so you're talking about 824 divided by 24. So you basically you played over a month. In other words, you played over a month. And then a bug destroyed your game, more or less. Your goal for your character was destroyed outside of the creator's vision. Keep that in mind.
Correct.
There is the concept of choices and consequences in real RPGs, and I do consider Fallout New Vegas to be very close to a real RPG. In fact, based on the stat checks for the various things, your character can actually be too dumb and have dialogue that reflects that.
Absolutely.
The things that are in New Vegas really are, it's an RPG. It's an action RPG, but unlike Fallout 4, I do believe it deserves the real title of RPG. So the question is, outside of the creator's vision, outside of those choices and consequences, a glitch happened. And
completely outside my control.
Outside of your control, you never had a say in it. And if the Puritans, were to be believed, you just have to accept that this is as far as you can get in your game because of that glitch.
Well, I don't feel it's fair that I have to accept that glitch. It wasn't intended by the game makers, for one. It ruined my enjoyment of that game. Because once that happens, my options was to accept the glitch and never have 100%. I would have a quest that I cannot complete. Or to start over. Now, at that point, yes, I was willing to start over, but it was that day that I started my YouTube channel. I got the game on computer. I'm like, if I'm going to have to replay this whole game, I'm going to replay this game on camera and share my extensive 800-something hours of knowledge with the world and show everyone how, I did this, quote, perfect playthrough. So in a way, that glitch was kind of a good thing. But on my computer playthrough, I would also like to point out, because I don't run mods, I encountered a completely different glitch that technically ruined my, quote, purest perfect playthrough. I had this quest that happened before. That one I did. That one, I was like, I'm not going to let that glitch happen again. So I got that quest taken care of early on. Then I had a completely different quest glitch happen. It was with the quest Wheel of Fortune. One of the characters would not talk to me, causing a very similar issue. The quest was incompletable, and I had to use console to fix it. Yeah. Now, does that count as cheating? I used console, and I agonized. I have, if I can find it, a video. Basically, the whole video is me agonizing over this decision. Do I start over? Do I ruin my purest playthrough? Or do I accept the hand I've been dealt? It was an hour, or maybe like 30 to 45 minutes long video of me just struggling with this. I couldn't decide what to do. In the end, I consoled to fix the glitch. Yeah. So I could continue on. I reset the quest.
I wouldn't consider that cheating at all. I had something very, very similar happen to me with Skyrim, and it was the last quest line I had to do. It was the College of Winterhold quest line, and right at the point where the Archmage dies, whatever happened, it killed everybody in the college. So I could not get the rest of the quest lines. Wow. So I couldn't finish it. I couldn't go to Labyrinthian and get the whatever that thing you got to get from there is.
The Staff of Magnus, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I had to do the same thing, but to me it wasn't even a question in my mind. I'm like, this game is not screwing me out of my 100%, and I did it. I had to. I had no choice because it just killed everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel that if you want to make a vanilla Skyrim playthrough, you need the unofficial Skyrim patch. It's called the legendary Skyrim patch, the U-Sleep. You have to have that installed, and I consider that vanilla. I consider anything less than U-Sleep to be sub-vanilla, subpar, it's worse than vanilla. It's console, which is unfortunate. But think about the sheer number of bugs that have been fixed by the legendary patch, and
so many.
Exactly, thousands. And when you compare that. But people will say, well, you can do this glitch, and you can, power up this, and actually you can't. U-Sleep fixes that. Like, what? But this enchanting glitch, you can be all powerful. Like, no, you can't. It's been fixed. Like, they shouldn't fix glitches that are helpful.
But then that's cheating.
Yes, yeah. That's just it, though.
That's called an exploit. That's something I avoid like the plague.
Yeah, exactly. But you see, there's a video up where someone beats Morrowind in 4 seconds. 4 minutes. Sorry. They beat the main quest in 4 minutes, but they're using an exploit where they're using a macro on their mouse, more or less. They're just spinning the mouse wheel up in order to constantly change weapons. And because you see, the idea is if you hold this ultimate weapon, which is supposed to break the heart of the god, if you wield it for more than a second, your character will die instantly. You have to have this thing called Wraithguard equipped that you have to go through like 20 hours of gameplay in order to get. And, instead they drink a bunch of potions, they jump over to the area where the weapon is, they go pick up the weapon, and then they go into the final dungeon and beat the game. Whilst continually hitting their mouse wheel to switch the weapon, and knowing that there's a script attached to that. And it's
I think I've seen that video, actually.
Yeah. But you see, it's actually an exploit that is not possible through the vanilla game. They have to actually use third-party software to make this mouse more or less change the weapon repeatedly. And it's not possible really to do it within within that framework. And when I think about that, it's just kind of ridiculous, really, to me.
See, and I like you pointing out, like, the exploits and stuff, because I am very strongly against exploits. I may min-max a game and try to break it within the rules, but something that I feel is an exploit is something the developers didn't intend. Like in Fallout New Vegas, I've got my character set up with perks and stuff, and if I use the right combination of items, I can stand there in a pack of death claws on very hard difficulty. Like we're talking like 10 death claws hitting me at once, and I don't take any damage. Now, I've done that without using anything that breaks the game. It's just very, very strong, overpowered perks and items that do that. I feel there's a difference between exploiting so your character's like got an unfair advantage and a difference between using what's in the game to become overpowered beyond all belief. And using something like the switch weapons constantly is very much an exploit to me.
Yeah.
Now, Zarek, I have a
Unless
question
you can
for
do that without it.
So, when Fallout 4 came out, I heard a lot of people accusing Bethesda of relying too much on the modding community and leaving too much out of the game. Do you think there's any validity behind that? Do you think that Bethesda actually relies on modders?
I was going to say, I was playing Mothership Zeta at the time using the Fallout 4 engine. I was doing Fallout New Vegas engine. I was doing Tale of Two Wastelands at the time. When I had a similar discussion, we were talking about the different features that they had, and settlement building was more or less introduced by a mod into Fallout New Vegas. It's a case of you look at all the major innovations that have gone on, and they're more or less just advanced versions of a mod that's come out before. And when I say advanced versions, I mean their functionality is improved, but the scope and scale to which they can be applied is reduced. And the reason the scope and scale has been reduced is to make sure that it runs within their Papyrus framework, this scripting engine that powers Skyrim and Fallout, respectively. And I found that Papyrus is very easily broken, so pretty much everything that runs within this framework has to be very simplified. Now, you'll find that when people will make mods using Skyrim or Fallout 4, not so much Fallout 4 yet because the creation kit isn't out yet, but looking at Skyrim especially, it's very easy to overtax Papyrus and break it easily. So you wonder why they don't have too much in the vanilla games. It's because they know that if they tax their scripting system too much, it's going to just fall over like a pile of bricks, and they don't want to fix it. They just want to work within the existing framework they created back, whenever they introduced the scripting engine. So, because, look, Morrowind used Gamebryo. Oblivion used a upgraded version of Gamebryo along with the Havoc engine for physics. And then Skyrim used the Gamebryo, Havoc, and Papyrus. Papyrus being the scripting engine. Papyrus governs everything in Skyrim. And if you overtax that thing, bam, your game crashes. Bam. I'm actually doing a Relic Hunter run right now, which I really, really enjoy. But I've overtaxed the system to where it will just flat out crash. Skyrim isn't capable of using my hardware to its full potential. Let's put it like this. When I have my my system monitor up, Skyrim is using 20% of my CPU, 30% of my RAM, and it'll still stutter and crash if the scripting engine gets overloaded. It just, So I look at this, and I think to myself, are they stealing too much from the modding community, or are they relying on the community too much? And the answer is no. In fact, they are kind of like, you can do what you want, but it's probably not going to work. We don't support this, And it's just... They do a kind of head nod toward modding. You want to mod it? Go right ahead. Those poor innocent fools. They're gonna break the game. That's pretty much it. Bethesda's always had a hands-off attitude. If you look at some of the I actually had a conversation yesterday with a member of the Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls lore community. He was trying to convince me that Coda is 100% legitimate. I've had this argument 25 times, so I basically start to shut my brain off when a Coda supporter starts talking to me, because when you've had an argument, you've reiterated the same points 15 times, but they don't get through to the person because that person is just as polarized as you are, you just give up on the argument. I mean, that's what ends up happening. Well, this guy was desperately trying to convince me that Coda was a legitimate thing, for the lore community, and I just linked him to an interview with Michael that Michael Kirkbride strong-armed to get down because it cast him in a bad light, and more or less just said that I disagree with you, and the point of it is, when it comes to canon, Bethesda is very hands-off. New Vegas is Obsidian property. However, because it's developed in the Fallout license, they have the ability to integrate it into Fallout 4. Do they? No.
Nope.
No lore from Fallout New Vegas was ever referenced, because in Bethesda's mind, at least as far as their official position, it never existed. But they won't tell you it's not canon. They will just quietly, lift up the rug, sweep New Vegas under.
Well, if you look at Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 compared to Fallout 1 and 2,
yeah,
the storylines are separate. They have very little. Fallout 3 and 4 have very little to do with Fallout 1 and 2 besides using the general game world and ideas.
Correct.
You can't actually link them up in any way. They make some references, like, hey, we're nodding our hat to that this exists, but no, this is our story now, and we're gonna develop it how we want.
But that's just it. I've looked at Bethesda's design direction in general. For Skyrim, their design direction, they took NPCs. They took the environment, and they took the dialogue and questing, then they took the items, and they had all these concepts that they were building, and their entire paradigm for Skyrim was interface all of these with the player. Make the player the center of all things. That is what Skyrim's design philosophy was, and it reflects it because the items, there was no item degradation because that would make the player feel bad. There was the world was smaller but more packed full of things, so like every 2 seconds you stumble into something, so the player's never bored. The NPCs don't actually talk to each other very much anymore, other than an occasional scripted event, but they do have, every NPC has something to say to the player because they talk to the player. Now, every house you can break into, and there's stuff for the player to take. It may not, like, every house may not have something relevant to that person. It may not feel like those people even live there, but it needs to be accessible for the player. And that is literally the design philosophy that Skyrim has adopted, is a player-centric, you are the center of the universe philosophy. And you'll see that in Fallout 4 as well. It's the extension of everything they learned making Skyrim. And keep in mind that those of us who've done different earlier games in the series, I'm poking around with Daggerfall right now, but we see what they've taken away. It's not because they decided that these elements were bad. It's because that their design direction has focused around a player-centric power fantasy. And that's what Fallout 4 and Skyrim are, and that's what New Vegas isn't. But again, this is my usual criticism of Bethesda. It has nothing to do with modding in general. What it has to do with modding is the fact that I believe they are going to make a head nod to modders every single time, whilst simultaneously going, those poor bastards. That's what I think.
I tried to get into Fallout 4. I really did. I started the game 3 or 4 times, and all I keep saying to myself is, I'll just wait till there's good mods out. Wait for the creation kit. The only thing I will say that I really did like about Fallout 4, and it's something that most people wouldn't notice unless you live in the area that the game takes place in. For example, one thing that really stuck out in my mind was there's a quest where you have to go to the Park Street station to go rescue somebody that's being held captive there. And when you first walk up to the Park Street station, it's like they sent someone from Bethesda to the actual Park Street station on the Boston Common and took a picture of the fucking thing. I spent 6 years working right at that exact spot selling fried dough as people walk out the Park Street station. I mean, the cracks in the pavement, the everything. It was unbelievable. And then stupid little things like Walden Pond is a spot on the map. Is a spot that I used to go fishing as a kid.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I really got a big kick out of Fallout 4 with. But the game just couldn't pull me in like Skyrim did. And that's actually my biggest fear for Elder Scrolls 6 and why I don't think I ever want to see an Elder Scrolls 6 because I think it's going to be more Fallout 4.
I completely agree. But again, here's the thing. I actually, again, I'm referencing things that have happened recently. I had a conversation on Top Hats and Champagne's channel with a couple people where, like, why aren't you giving this game a chance? Like, because Top Hats decided he didn't like a specific game, and, you know, he hadn't played it himself. He watched a 2-hour Let's Play and read some reviews on Metacritic, and people jumped on him for that. Like, how you didn't even give the game a chance. Like, you have to understand something. When you buy a game, even if you then leave a scalding review calling it utter shit, it doesn't matter. Because your money is now their money. And they take that into account. They don't care about what you say. They just say, we got money, and therefore the game is a success. Bam. That's literally it. And so they value how much money they got, not the opinions of their followers. So because Skyrim was gigantically successful over Oblivion, and because Fallout 4 was gigantically successful over Skyrim, just based on sheer sales and hype and marketing, they believe their design directions are correct and will continue to go in that general direction. It doesn't matter that New Vegas was infinitely better than Fallout 4 is, other than the graphics.
Got a lower Metacritic score. It must mean it's terrible.
No, the Metacritic score doesn't actually matter. Metacritic score was just an excuse for them not to pay Obsidian the bonus. That's all. Which was a thing. Obsidian did not get a sales share bonus that they felt they were entitled to, because they didn't reach the goal Metacritic score. Now, Metacritic, however, is there's a concept called metabombing now, where a bunch of people leave negative reviews and basically screw over a Metacritic score. And likewise, you know, there's a bunch of other options. So, what ends up happening is now it's just solely based on how much money is made. That's what the companies gauge their success on. And because each game is making more money than the last, they see their design direction being correct. And I'm almost certain that they will not learn from what the community is asking for. Because keep in mind that for every person who is speaking out against, you know, Skyrim, like, I'm playing Skyrim, for God's sakes. Like, despite saying that, you know, this game is shit compared to the earlier games, I'm playing it, so clearly I am wrong, and I'm just I'm just spewing out nonsense. And I understand that from a business perspective. They look at the amount a game is played, they look at the amount of money the game is made, and they just, nothing else matters. So, when you buy a game, you are encouraging that particular company to continue that particular business practice, even if you give it a negative review. The only purpose that reviews have is to deter other people from buying it. Now, why do you buy games without reading reviews? I ask people that all the time, and the answer is they're too hyped for it. they fell victim to the marketing train. Destiny. I didn't buy Destiny because I don't have a modern console. I have everything up to the PS2, and I love it. But modern consoles are just dumbed down PCs.
PS2 best console, hands down.
No. PS2 does have the best ratio of good games to bad games. It's actually a fact.
Easily.
Yes. I mean,
you know what the last game for PS2 that was released was?
What?
FIFA 14.
14.
That's not that many years ago.
No,
Wow.
I know. I was blown away by that.
I mean, I'm looking at my PS2. I have several of these little CD dexes here, and they're just filled with different games like Okame, Disgaea, Hour of Darkness. This game Final Fantasy 12 I never play. Because of I'm Captain Bosch von Ronsenberg of Dalmasca, I immediately ejected the disc and never played it again. But yeah, Mega Man X4, Marvel vs. Capcom, Shadow of the Colossus, so on and so forth. So, people are actually modding older like PS2 games and stuff. Like, they're taking the ISO and they're applying patches to them. And, admittedly, SNES games have been modded for years. So if we're going back to like older consoles, let's have a chat about this really quick. There were these Super Mario ROM hacks where they actually downloaded the game from the cartridge. They altered the game and they re-uploaded it, overwriting the data on the cartridge. They more or less just, I believe they had to get a brand new cartridge. But what they did is they replaced the data on the cartridge with this ROM hack, and they actually sold those ROM hacks. And, now they're given out for free and or eBayed. But here's the thing, people will get those ROM hacks in ROM form instead, and they'll play these games, and these games are awesome. They're, they're harder. Sometimes they're high quality, sometimes they're very low quality, it doesn't matter. Either way, Nintendo started, as soon as Mario Maker came out, Nintendo immediately went and took down all of the YouTube videos that had ROM hacks in them. Super Mario ROM hacks were running in direct competition with Mario Maker, because you can make your own Mario game. People have been making their own Mario game for years, and they've been doing it better outside of the restrictions of Mario Maker. And Nintendo quietly buried all of the YouTube videos that talked about that, because they were afraid when they saw Mario Maker videos, which Nintendo monetizes, by the way, that those would show up and undermine their sales of Mario Maker. It's very scummy, in my opinion, the taking down of videos that are inconvenient to you. And Nintendo has been doing this for a long, long time. The only Nintendo videos you'll ever find are on my Zhakaron Live channel, which is, and those get instantly monetized by Nintendo, meaning they take the monetization rights away from me, and they basically take credit for it. Despite the fact I might be a third, not a third, but a fourth of the screen. I'm giving my commentary on it. It contains Nintendo stuff, and bam, they take it. Now, what I believe is that Nintendo itself isn't monetizing these things themselves. I believe they've got a shell company or a marketing firm. I can't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure they've got a firm that is more or less handling this for them and is looking out for their better interests. It's like the Pokemon Company, for instance. The Pokemon Company has a law firm that basically goes and sues everybody. As far as I know, keep in mind, as far as I know, don't take this as absolute fact. They go around and sue anyone who misuses the Pokemon license. So, but getting back to modding in general, yeah, the ROM hacks. The ROM hacks were all just taken down, because they were afraid that it was going to compete with their mainstay product, and using their own intellectual property, of course. And that's kind of iffy, because how do any of us have fair use on things? And eventually we're going to have to fight for this. The fair use. I mean, and
how did the ROM hacks? How did they feel that those were in direct competition? because the majority of people out there that probably got into Mario Maker know nothing about doing ROM hacks.
That's just it. They want to make sure that that those videos are never seen by anybody. It's censorship. It's squelching to make sure that they are never competition. Because what if somebody types into YouTube like best custom Mario level, and they come up with a ROM hack instead of a Mario Maker level? And they're like, there's a download link in the video description. Oh crap! Now they're getting the ROM hack. They're hacking the Mario game. They don't need to buy Mario Maker because they just got access to 30 different ROM hacks. Like, it's not absolute. I mean, anyone who's going to buy Mario Maker is still going to buy Mario Maker. But you have to understand their perspective, which is, we want all the money, not some of the money. And that is a very corporate perspective. Yeah. That's all I got to say on that particular note. Do you guys have any experience with ROM hacks?
Not really.
Okay, well, what I've hacked Chrono Trigger, my favorite game of all time. There is a game out there called Flames of Eternity. It is actually the rehack of a different ROM hack called Crimson Echoes. And whether or not Flames of Eternity is the legitimate one or Crimson Echoes is the legitimate one, nobody knows. But as far as I know, Flames of Eternity is further down the line in terms of development. And more or less, it's the Chrono Trigger 2 we should have had, basically. Where you have to go up against this guy named King Zeal. And, the king was supposed to have died, but it turns out, when Lavos died, he was released from his prison, more or less. And he's a badass. And, yeah, it's a fun game. But I think that Square Enix, if this thing got any bigger, if it actually got some publicity, Square Enix would crush it. Crush it bad. I'm pretty sure.
Well, the only ROM hack I've really seen lately is, if everyone's familiar with Undertale, the guy who made Undertale, Toby Fox, did Halloween hack of Earthbound.
Yes,
that was actually the inspiration of Undertale.
Undertale, yes, but oh my god, was it good. I mean, it basically told a tragic twist on Earthbound, where basically all of their they saved the world, but guess what? You're trapped in an alternate reality now, and you can't get home. Holy shit, and everything goes so horribly wrong, and that's where everyone believes that Alphys's laboratory basically is the connection between Earthbound, that ROM hack, and Undertale. They believe that all three are related in the same continuity. They just can't say anything about it because, that would be copyright infringement. But if you look at the ending of Undertale, when you see that big town at the end, when they finally get to the surface, spoilers! Basically, in the good ending, it comes down to, that's the city from Earthbound. It's just a different perspective of it. So... Shannara immediately shouted "Sans equals Ness," which I can't confirm that, but Alphys's lab does have connections to Undertale's the Undertale ROM hack, I should say.
And Papyrus, his armor has the emblem of the star people.
Yeah, exactly.
There's definitely a lot of clear inspiration, if not direct connections. But isn't that interesting to think about? Toby Fox probably would have never made Undertale, one of the most popular games, of this past year here, if he hadn't made that ROM hack.
Yeah. Undertale was a very interesting concept, but I don't know how it would translate into, how do I put this? I do not want to see a sequel of Undertale. I really don't. Because I believe that it wrapped up the conclusion perfectly. And again, I just don't want to see another one. And I think that fans are going to demand it. And something half-hearted is going to be put out. If you know the Five Nights at Freddy's creator, as much as I am not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, as much as I'm not, into the entire fandom, there was something called Five Nights at Freddy's World, I believe, that was put out as an RPG, and it was garbage. It was garbage, but this guy felt compelled to put this thing out.
I believe he's pulled it down, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he can't buy it anymore.
Yeah.
No, he pulled it down so he could rework it and fix a lot of the issues with it. And when he puts it back out, it's going to be free for everyone.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. But that is very telling when someone is compelled to do something which, isn't that good, and yet. It's just because how fast did he put out games before? They were basically
he was pumping them out.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. The core gameplay of look over here, look over there, look over there. I mean that hasn't changed. All that changed was the in between cutscenes, more or less. Some of them played like an RPG Maker, others didn't, and I didn't mind it because there was an overarching story that I could follow on YouTube without actually buying the game myself, because I didn't find the gameplay compelling. Which it's nice to be able to follow. It's nice to be able to follow the story of a game without having to actually play the game. The reason is because if you find the gameplay garbage. Why would you buy it? That's what I'm saying, and that is where a lot of these anti-YouTube things come into play. Like that Dragon Cancer, for instance. It is supposed to be a very compelling experience, about this family that's dealing with the fact their baby has cancer and is going to die and not going to live very long. And so how do you deal with that? Well, unfortunately it's got some of the worst gameplay you've ever dealt with, coupled with some of the most touching story elements. I would have bought that Dragon Cancer if it were a movie. But it's not a movie, it's a game, and the gameplay is crap. So people, the developers are wondering, why are our sales so low? Well, you're making a game about having cancer, for one thing. For another... You have, some of the worst gameplay in there. And guess what? People are going to review your game. They're going to say the gameplay is awful. Then they're going to reflect that review, in terms of sales. People aren't going to buy it because the reviews are shit. And reviews exist not to screw over your game, but rather to protect consumers from faulty or misleading products. And that's why games, until now, have been very much, you have to enter your CD key and then the game is non-refundable. That's been the hook, is it doesn't matter just how bad the game is, you weren't allowed to return it and that's why the EU has instituted return policies on all physical media, and Australia has instituted a return policy on all digital media. So, Steam just recently got sued. In fact, I believe the next podcast I'm going to be doing with the Migrant Thought people, you included, Rowan, will be touching on that topic about Steam getting sued over... the fact that there isn't that there wasn't a return policy for so long, and all the fallout of that. Which
I'm really interested. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm really interested to see how that's going to affect Steam and the rest of the world.
Well, I don't believe it will affect Steam and the rest of the world at all. I think that if other countries decide to apply this. Keep in mind that you cannot sue someone retroactively for a law that you institute. So, in other words, if the EU passes a law that that online distribution has to have a return policy, then from that point on, companies will be responsible to allow returns, which Steam is now allowing returns, so it isn't a problem. Steam is allowing guarantees, so it isn't a problem. But they weren't in the past, and Australia already implemented this law for about a year before Steam implemented their return policy. So for future stuff, not going to be a problem. But this fact that the law existed and Steam was not adhering to it for a year, that's where we're going to run into these problems. That's where we're going to have issues. So I'm keeping an eye on this. And if other countries demand this return policy, then you're going to see, Origin, Uplay, and all these other, storefronts basically have to submit to this as well. That's why GOG Gaming most recently instituted their return policy, which is very difficult to use, by the way. The GOG return policy exists mostly to deal with these laws. And the idea is that if you try to return it, you say you've already redeemed the CD key. We can offer you online credit for another game, and you're like, no, I want my cash back. And so you basically have to argue with them a little bit, and then you'll get it back. But what they do is they do delaying and stalling tactics, as far as I've seen. I don't know. I can't tell you that that's their policy. What I can tell you is based on the experiences that some of my friends have had. That is what happens. Is they basically fuck you around for a while, and then GOG finally accepts the return. My point is, though, going back to modding, as far as these games go, you look at games, even the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, all this cut content that was added to it. You look at Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy, more content was added, It's a case of these games that shouldn't be relevant anymore are now relevant. And it's only because of modding. And you know what's funny? We're getting into the community here. I recently did a video on the Skyrim The Journey mod pack, which basically combines a bunch of mods. I talked about how the Skyrim community is vehemently against this mod pack, and the reason they're against it is because the mod makers aren't being sufficiently credited. On the download page, there's a tab you can open up, and in it lists all the mods that are used, but that doesn't take you to their Nexus page. That doesn't give you the ability to issue feedback to the authors. It doesn't list that as a download on the official modding page. It doesn't leave an endorsement on their mod. So they feel like they're being cheated because someone else has stolen their mods. And the thing is that this wasn't a thing in the past. If you go to Minecraft, there are mod packages, and people don't give a shit which mods are in which mod packages. For a while, there was a little bit of drama, but people have given up that. If you go back to Neverwinter Nights, everything had to be in its own packages. John, please don't use the commands command anymore. Thank you. Now, as I was saying, basically, if the mod authors ask for the mods to be taken out of the mod pack, the author was irate with them and basically tried to explain to them that he was doing this the way he wanted. Whereas back in Neverwinter Nights, nobody cared. The Neverwinter Nights modules needed to be packaged because you could only use one module per game. Now, we can use multiple mods, and everyone gets to have credit. But here's where the disconnect starts. In Neverwinter Nights, toward the end of the Neverwinter Nights 1 development cycle, or should I say, before Neverwinter Nights 2 existed, when Neverwinter Nights 1 was still being played, people started getting hired by companies because of their high-quality Neverwinter Nights modules. This means that modding escalated from a hobby into something that actually goes into your professional portfolio. People actually started getting jobs in the gaming industry because of their modding work. That is one squeaky screen door. But we're going to move on. Basically, Skyrim is the Skyrim modding community is the product of this very it's very personalized system where now your mods are connected to you as an identity. And instead of just mods being added because I want to see this content, it's my good faith for the community. Like, I don't care who uses it. I don't care who redistributes it. I don't care who reappropriates it. That is the way Neverwinter Nights was. Now, this mod is my hard work. It belongs to me. I have a say in who uses it and who downloads it and who hosts it. And, you know, it's my property. That is the way the Skyrim modding community has evolved. And it's the product of this. It's being part of your portfolio. And so people are afraid that they aren't going to get properly credited for their stuff. It isn't about ego. It's about actual tangible benefits that could happen. The author of Falskar got his own... He got a job at, I believe, BioWare. Because he made a mod for Skyrim that was a DLC-sized mod. It was like the size of Solstheim.
It's an incredible mod, too. It's one of my favorites.
And yet, I have major issues with the plot. I've deemed the name Jarl stupid for the main Jarl you deal with. We had a deal, and then seriously, Bungie. Sorry, Manny Kuro is correct. Not BioWare. Bungie hired him. The point is that he was hired by a company because of his modding work. And everyone wants that. And everyone... So this is where the concept of ownership and it being part of your portfolio has bled into the community and more or less poisoned the well. And now the goodwill of the community is gone, and now it's all, this is my mod, you shouldn't be allowed to do this with it. And I have to facepalm at that, because whilst I... You know, the journey of the mod pack, I think mod packs are good. Mod packs should be encouraged. But at the same time, the modding community is vehemently against it. Anyway, the point is, part of your portfolio, goodwill of the community, what do you guys think? Come on, Rowan first.
Well, I would definitely say it's part of your portfolio. It's the same thing, like, you know, what we do with streaming and YouTube and stuff. That's something that we want to get credit for. We want, you know, to be able to use that to build into something. You know, whether it be, you know, building a bigger channel or to be able to use it on maybe future jobs. Like, I can design videos. But also, I think a lot of what's come out of, or why modding exists in the first place is because the developers abandon games. I mean, that is really what it's all about at the core. Mm-hmm. Games get developed, and then they quickly lose support. Yeah. And then the modding community takes up the torch because they love that game and they don't want to let it die. Like, think about how many games Fallout New Vegas could use some love by the developer to fix all these problems. But they don't, because it's not profitable. They don't care. You know, they basically abandoned it. And it's very, very rare for developers to go back to their game after a long time. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, actually, surprisingly enough, I don't know if you guys were aware of this, they redid a bunch of stuff for the game only recently. I think it was within the last year here. And they added achievements, they added additional modding support, all this just crazy stuff.
Well, what happened with Knights of the Old Republic is what they ended up doing is they basically took this, yes, the meowing has begun. We cannot stop the meowing now. As I was saying, the concept of Knights of the Old Republic is they had access to Steamworks now. It was a license so they just threw it onto Steamworks, and they went ahead and Yes, they're static. It's part of the Skype call, so we can't help that. Now, as I was saying, the concept with Steamworks is it has achievements, it has all these other options, including the Steam Cloud, and they figured, well, we have access to these toolkit, why don't we just update the game, get more sales in it? And it was smart, because they made the game HD capable, and then they added in all this stuff, which is all part of the Steamworks framework, and it cost them almost nothing to do, because they already had access to the, oh, thank you, Silver Fox. Much appreciated. He gave me $1. As I was saying. The framework was already there. The source was already there. So literally all they had to do was plug in the Steamworks framework into the existing source. No problem. It wasn't difficult to do. Recompile the game, upload it. So this new version was optimized for Steam, and now people are running with the new version because it's HD capable, and are basically making more mods for it. And yes, the modding community for Knights of the Old Republic 1 is still active, which is kind of crazy. And if you aren't using the restored content mod for Knights of the Old Republic 1, I have a video up on how to do that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Rowan. They had the license to do Steamworks, so they did it. And a lot of games can do that, provided they are built semi for Windows. You know, if you got an old DOS game, then you're going to have issues integrating Steamworks with it, because it isn't Windows-based. It probably wasn't even developed in C. You know, when games like Minecraft, for instance, you're going to have issues, because they're developed for Java. You know, when you get a game, whenever you have a game that's built in C, built for Windows, congratulations, you can integrate Steamworks or Origin or any other API you want pretty damn easily. But were you going to say anything else on this about the Rowan?
No, that's what I had for now.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it as far as I can tell. Is that they expanded on it. Now the modding community is running with it, and there's going to be more stuff out for Knights of the Old Republic. In fact, I believe that the assets have recently been ported to a Unreal Engine port that they're working on, and that there's some people looking to remake all of Knights of the Old Republic in the Unreal Engine, the UE4. So I'm kind of interested in that, but at the same time, you know, I'm always suspicious of sudden cease and desist orders. Which, keep in mind that a cease and desist order does not need to be respected, actually. Until, like, a cease and desist order, as it is done, is simply a lawyer kind of trying to push you around. It's not from a judge. It's not, it's just legalese saying, stop it. And if you decide to disregard a cease and desist order, then they will take you to court, and you can win. You can actually win. So, very few people ever resist a cease and desist order, for good reason, because a lawsuit isn't usually worth a fan project. But yes, exactly. John Blood said it best. A cease and desist order is just halt, or probably will maybe sue you. Exactly. But here's the thing. The winner of a civil case like that gets all the court costs. So if you ignore a cease and desist order, and then you are otherwise, you're found at fault, then you have to pay the court costs on top of that, which could be very, very large. The worst they could do is tell you that you can't do what you want to do. And that's the worst thing that a judge could say, and then award court costs on top of that. But what I'm saying is that a lot of modding projects have been taken down in general because of this. And what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to throw something up on my stream here. I'm going to go to Chrono Trigger Resurrection. And we're going to see right here. This, I have to keep it muted because of copyright issues, but this was a work in progress. It more or less represents a Chrono Trigger remake they were trying to make in 3D.
Ooh.
And Square Enix put the hammer down hard on them. They respected the cease and desist order and immediately stopped the project. But, yeah, it's kind of a big deal that they had rebuilt so much of Chrono Trigger in 3D, and then, you know, I mean, they talk about, you know, some people were responsible for lighting effects, other people were responsible for this. They had a whole team of people that were basically doing what is expected from a professional quality project. So when you figure this out, it's just, you know, like we got a lot of great projects, but they're taken down because the theory is that they infringe on intellectual property. The thing is that these are true remakes. They don't, how do I put this? The only thing they interfere with is the possibility of the company remaking the same thing at a lower quality threshold. It basically ups the bar. And there's a whole issue of, well, we're not asking for money, therefore we are not infringing. And guess what? You're still infringing. Like the all legal precedent to this day has basically told us that you're still infringing even if you aren't asking for money. Which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. You know, it means that fan fiction isn't protected. It means that all these different things aren't protected. And I'm not happy with that. Bethesda Bethesda early on embraced modding. And how they did this is with the creation kit, which they spent an extra year on developing with Morrowind. They spent an extra year developing this creation kit, hoping to foster a large community, which they did. They released a creation kit with Oblivion, which also fostered a large community. Skyrim's creation kit was delayed. Fallout 4's creation kit is currently delayed. You see, this fostering of a community has become less and less important as the games have become more and more popular and are selling units. The modding community is no longer what drives the games. Now, that they could stop selling on PC and still make a decent amount of money. That's the sad reality. So, people are asking, like, this goes back to your question, Pauliem. Are they leaning on the mod community too much? And the answer is no. No, they aren't. They don't really care about the modding community anymore. Now it's kind of like a head nod. Yeah. In like maybe 4 to 6 months, you'll get your modding kit, maybe. So, yeah. I'm sorry, but it seems like they are less caring about modding as they're getting more money from alternate sources.
I think if they'd gotten away with the whole paid mod scheme, that they'd be putting a lot more into the modding community. Like,
yes.
For example,
yes.
The Fallout 4 creation kit that would have been out at launch if they got away with the paid mods. And I think that's another reason why they're trying to do mods on console. It's like you said earlier, it's not going to be anything demanding. You're not going to be putting ENBs or texture mods on console. It's going to be, oh, look at this really cool sword you can use. You can use a sword from Skyrim in Fallout 4 now for $4.99. It's going to be microtransactions. That's how they're going to introduce microtransactions into games that they would have never done.
Okay, let's talk about the paid modding system for a second. So what ended up happening is Valve, whenever you put anything on Steam, Valve takes a uniform 30% cut. That's what they do. What ended up happening is Bethesda looked at it like, okay, well, Valve's taking a 30% cut and someone else is using our intellectual property, we're going to take a 30% cut too. No reason that Valve should take a larger cut than us. So that's a 60% cut. As a result, I believe they took more than that, actually. The point is, when all things were said and done, modders were getting 25%, roughly. Yeah.
Which I agree is shitty. However, before, they weren't getting anything.
It's true.
So if they had never initiated this whole thing, they would have continued creating mods,
Yeah.
continued getting their tips and their donations through their personal pages, and no one would have ever said a thing. It was right there, that one little initial breakdown, and it might have been different if it had been the modder got 40%. No one would have ever said anything about it.
I've got to look this up now. I believe it's Luftarin, Skyrim.
Now, do you believe that the percentage cut is what caused people to be against it, or was it the idea that there's this content that now Steam is asking you to pay for that people got in an uproar over?
I think it was more the percentage.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I do, because a lot of the mods were still free, and it was up to the creator whether or not the mods were paid for. It wasn't like, Valve wasn't like, okay, well, you have to charge for this mod now, and we're taking 75% of your money. It was, you can charge for your mods, but you have to give, I think it was 45 or 40% to Bethesda, 30%, yeah, I think it was 45% to Bethesda, 30% to Valve, and then the mod creator kept the rest. And that's why people were all up in arms. Oh my God, they're putting all this work in and you're taking all their money. But if this had never been initiated, they weren't getting any money to begin with.
And now they're back to not getting any money.
Exactly.
Well, here's the thing is, I'm looking at right now this, the Luftarin creator had a Patreon up. I don't see the Patreon up anymore. I think that people have basically said, if you're taking money for, building a mod, like, we're not going to support you anymore. I'm looking at you, Nexus Mods. It's a case of if anyone wants to crowdfund or any kind of modding project, they're taking money for mods. We can't allow that. And so I actually get pissed every time I see that stupid emblem on the Nexus that says forever free and it shows a dragon. That pisses the fuck. It makes me angry. It makes me very angry because I think about how these projects, like we're talking about Foul Scar, Worm's Tooth, Undeath, these projects should be allowed for what I call unofficial DLC status, where they're basically able to be paid. They're able to be paid, for their stuff. The problem is that when Bethesda got into talks with Valve about this paid modding system, they specifically told Valve there be no curation. This is very important because if you look at Team Fortress's Steam Workshop, you'll see that everything is curated. What this means is that you can download anything on the Steam Workshop to mess around with and look at and put into your game if you want. The problem with it is that then these programs, nothing comes of it. Like, how do I put this? If your mod isn't of quality to where Valve approves it and enough people support it, it is never put in the game as an official item. So it has this trial period where people have to look at it and say, yeah, I'd want that. They thumbs it up. And Valve then approves it. And you'll never see an item that isn't approved. But according to Valve, at least, Bethesda stated that there be no curation, period.
So, just to put this in the light, so Valve has more quality control on that than they do on Greenlight. Because on Greenlight,
correct,
Valve doesn't actuly approve anything. Well, but it still needs votes.
Yeah.
Can I just respond to something in the chat real quick?
Okay.
Dark Rider, there are ways you can donate to some of these mod creators, but if Bethesda wants, they can shut that down and sue the shit out of them.
Yep.
For example, Skywind, they will not accept any donations at all, not even a penny, because they've been told by Bethesda directly, if you accept money, you're infringing on our copyright, we will sue you and we will shut you down. That's why they cut ties with the guy that was doing the Sky Oblivion mod. And that's also why the Luftarin Patreon got shut down. Bethesda shut that down because they're infringing on their copyright. So donating to the mod creators is a really iffy thing. A lot of them get shut down by Bethesda for accepting donations.
You see, I didn't hear about this. So I didn't hear about Bethesda specifically shutting these people down. That bothers the hell out of me because, let's face it, I do Elder Scrolls related content and people are paying me money to do it.
Yes, but you're not using their assets to create mods and.
But you see, the thing is that I am using their assets in the form of, like, look. If you look on the stream right now, I've got Daggerfall up. This is a Bethesda intellectual property. Now, admittedly, if they go after me for doing this, they have to go after other YouTubers, and then there's going to be a problem. It's a case of it would be a PR nightmare. I think that they're picking their battles, and
they are.
But from a ethical standpoint, they're being hypocritical. That's what I'm saying.
So,
I agree.
What everyone kind of agrees then, so the shutting down of paid mods on Steam actually has probably hurt the mod creators more than helped them. Would you say that?
I would say so. I mean,
agree.
The fact is that if mod makers were able to accept donations, keeping in mind that I would... what I would say is that if a creator said, I'm going to gate the creation of this mod behind X amount of donations, then I would have a problem with that. However, if the creator is running a Patreon so they don't have to work and they can just focus on that particular mod, I think that's something that needs to be encouraged so that we can have more content added. But keep in mind that I'm pretty sure they're going to release all their Fallout 4 DLC before we see any kind of construction kit. I'm almost certain of it. They don't want competition with their mainstay products, which is why I don't even know if there's going to be a new creation kit for Elder Scrolls 6. Or it'll be delayed until after all the DLC's out and the game isn't supported anymore. That's what my fear is that they're basically going to be like, okay, let's get all our DLCs out because we're leaving cash on the table if we don't, do season passes and DLCs. That again, I said this in a live stream last night, the night before that, where I said, like at games development conferences, people will outright tell you if you are not doing season passes, if you're not doing pre-order bonuses, if you are not selling DLCs, then you're leaving cash on the table. And they ingrain that into new developers. And so pretty much that's what new developers learn, is that they need to do these things or they are losing money. And so not only do developers learn that, but then investment companies learn that. Because keep in mind that Bethesda is owned by ZeniMax. ZeniMax is owned by, as far as I know, the majority control in the company is an investment firm. So guess where the whenever they have a board meeting, everyone says, do this, do this, do this. They pick people who will foster money over creativity. And that's where the power fantasy's coming in, where the focus on the consoles comes in. It's all because of this, in my opinion, anyway.
So the real title of this stream should not be Does Modding Ruin Gaming? It's Does Corporations and the Love of Money Ruin Gaming? Because that's what it seems like all the problems stem from.
Right now, yes, when it comes right down to it, the casualization of games, the all of the symptoms that plague gaming now are indeed boiled down to corporate greed. It's something I figured out with Top Hats by the second podcast I did with him, basically. And But what I'm saying is that in general, modding is not modding isn't a problem, but modding I feel is going to get less and less supported. Like modding was something that got Bethesda in the door, and now they don't need it as much anymore. They're still going to support it in a backwards kind of fashion because it keeps people into their games and it keeps sales going on the PC platform at least until they're able to put out a new game. Now, keep in mind that Bethesda has corporatized. They are no longer just one team. They've got a second team. And if I'm correct, then what they're going to end up doing is they're going to hit... they're going to do Elder Scrolls Legends with their second team. That's their Hearthstone competitor, a card game. And then... Momoko says Providence Equity Partners owns ZeniMax along with someone else, and there's definitely the meowing. The meowing's back. So, but as I was saying, yes, Providence Equity Partners are indeed an investment firm. Therefore, I was correct. Thank you for confirming, Momoko. Okay, I'm getting sick of this. but yes indeed. So I can't formulate thoughts with the meow 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 in the
cat's trying to put it
with the gentleman I was speaking to. His name is Frankie Grapeseed, and he goes by the YouTube name Hank Shaw. He is doing multiple voices on Skywin, as well as working with the development team, and I spent a good 3 hours speaking to him the other night, and I tried every possible way to get this man to take donations of money from me, and he said I can't. If they find out, I'll get kicked off the project, and the project could be shut down. Yeah. So that's why I'm gonna literally probably once a month pay for an interview with him to try to learn about the progression of the project and things like that. And I was able to convince the development team to allow me to donate some couple of mics that I'm sending to them for some of their voice actors that they want to hire that just don't have proper quality microphones. Yeah. So there are ways around it, but as it goes to, setting up a Patreon page and me donating money to them every month, they won't allow it.
Yeah, I understand. And it's due to Bethesda, I assume. But again, they're picking their battles because, they're trying to stop people from more or less... here's the thing. They might have a Morrowind, replacement in... and not in development, but in the back of their minds. And if you make something better than what they're going to make, then you've killed that possibility or devalued that possibility. Why pay for this when we got Skywind? You know what I mean? That's something that Square Enix has been huge about, is keeping their possibilities in check, defending their intellectual property rights. Trademarks are very important, and a certain lady is on the other side of a door, I believe, getting something from the car, and so the cat is staring at the door. And meow, meow, you're on the other side of the door. Please, 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 open the door. So, yeah. But, yes. As far as this goes, I really don't know what to make of it because, they supported modding in the past heavily. But in the fact, in this, now... they're trying to push paid modding, and they tried, and the community rebelled against it, mainly because they treated it like shit. And they were going to push it through BethesdaNet. Where's BethesdaNet now? In fact, let's have a look here. I'm curious now. Let's look up BethesdaNet. Okay, so we got Bethesda.net. Here we go. So this is supposed to be BethesdaNet. Apparently, it's just one big advertisement for Fallout 4, along with some other stuff here. Yeah. So This is nothing. This is Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Doom. Yeah, it's their modern games. It's a ZeniMax site, regardless of if it is labeled like
it's a site for selling merchandise.
Yes,
all of it.
exactly. It's a site for selling merchandise. So let's put it like this: Todd Howard previewed their Bethesda net and how they were going to sell their, they were going to distribute console mods via that. That's not happening.
No.
If it does happen, if it really does happen, then I have a feeling it's going to be a pale shadow of what they had envisioned back when they had their paid mod system in progress.
Or it'll be on like the Xbox 3.
Xbox 3.
Do you guys think paid modding is going to come back to Steam in some form or another?
Not Steam.
No. Not after that debacle.
No. What's going to happen is paid modding is going to come back through BethesdaNet exclusively. Bethesda is going to offer probably a 50-50 share. That's what I suspect. I suspect Bethesda is going to offer a 50-50 share to mod makers, because that's what they want. Is they want to make the money. And but the 30% that Valve was charging got in the way of their making the money. So they offered mod developers 25%. And let's face it, this has started all the insanity. So, the fact is that they're going to address the problems, but what they're going to do is they're not going to do it for an existing game property. So I don't think paid modding will be a thing for Skyrim. I don't think paid modding will be a thing for Fallout 4. However, Fallout 5 or Fallout 5, Elder Scrolls 6, or whatever new intellectual properties they make will contain their new version of the paid modding system, I suspect. This is my suspicion. Nothing rooted in fact. But I had a feeling that they were going to be doing this they were going to be selling mods on Fallout 4, and as soon as the Fallout 4, as soon as the Skyrim paid mod system broke the community, more or less, they gave up that idea. Whether or not they actually had that, I can't say for sure. But in my head, I'm pretty sure they wanted to sell Fallout 4 mods. What do you guys think?
Oh, I completely agree. I think that if that whole paid mods thing for Skyrim had worked, they'd be selling mods for every game.
Yeah.
And it would not be in a good way. And the longer it went on, again, I think it was going to slowly turn into microtransactions.
Yes. I have a feeling that, here's what I foresee. I see a modder's pass, okay? You buy a modding pass, and then it allows you to create your own mods and use their development kit. And if you have a modding pass, you can publish stuff to their store, and it's like a DLC type thing. And then you can basically make back the money you spent on that modding pass by selling the mods, and they get a cut both ways.
Quick, Zarek, copyright modding pass.
Seriously.
Use it.
I'm pretty sure they're going to do that. I'm pretty sure that... keep in mind that the creative minds behind Bethesda are not the same as the corporate suits, I should say, who are basically trying to push this. And what I think is that, how do I put this? I think that Todd Howard gets a bad rap. I think that Todd Howard is told, he's the game director, yes. But I think that, how shitty would it be if your job was to produce a game and you had a deadline, okay? You spent 4 years on it, but it still wasn't to your satisfaction, and you weren't allowed to put more money into it, okay? You had a budget that you had to stick to, and you barely skirted by on what you had, okay? And then the corporate suits, whoever was the CEO, basically told you, okay, I know you're not satisfied with this product, but you got to go out there on the E3 showroom and promote it the best of your ability. I don't know if that's true. It's possible that he has 100% faith in every single thing he does. But what if you were told, you yourself were told, yeah, this thing you don't really have faith in, that you kind of had to cut like 1 billion things out of, and we had to slice like these 3 things up for DLC, and, so on and so forth. Well, our parent company's saying you got to promote this stuff. You got to promote it hard. That's your job.
Just ask anyone that works at Ubisoft; they can tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's what. Go out there and do your job and make the game sound really good.
That's what I'm saying. So in terms of, because let's face it, look back at everything from Daggerfall to Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, and Todd Howard's name is on it. Okay, he built Morrowind. Like I don't think he was in the chess club, he said, but he played Dungeons and Dragons back in the day. I'm pretty sure has a passion. Like I can't speak to someone else's state of mind, but I'm pretty sure he has a passion for the things we have passions for. But at the end of the day, he is an employee and he must do what the corporate overlords say. Again, I don't know for sure. So, I'm just guessing. I'm not speaking with any authority because I know Blizzard, I know Valve, I do not know Bethesda. So, I don't know what else to say about this other than just imagine if that you were in that situation where you had you had a product that you personally weren't satisfied with. And then all of a sudden, your corporate overlords told you, yeah, this is your job. You have to promote it. And I suspect that, like, Todd Howard's quote-unquote lies, as the memes are, maybe he actually, he just had to promote it that way. Like, these are the talking points. You'll promote it this way. Thou shalt promote.
Well, here's a way to put it into perspective, everyone. So let's say, because a lot of people have worked in like maybe the restaurant industry. I haven't personally, but I have friends that do.
I do.
So let's say you work for a restaurant and you don't really care for their food. You wouldn't eat there if you weren't working there. But it's your job to talk up that food to the people that are purchasing it. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna make that food sound damn good because you're getting paid to sell that food and to wait on those tables or what have you. So you're not gonna be like, yeah, well, don't order the chicken tenders because they're really greasy and gross. Be like, oh, the chicken tenders? Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
You actually just took my example right out from under me. And that's exact. Well, not in an insulting way or anything like that, but that's the exact experiences I've had. I literally have worked for the same guy for 18 years, and when I first started working, it was shut up, do what you're told, and promote this shit I want to sell. And it got to the point where after so much time, I'm like, no, I can't. I cannot walk out there and tell these people, ooh, order this. It's great. When it sucks. I'm not the type of person that can do that anymore. So after 18 years, I ended up leaving the place.
Yeah. I understand that completely.
Can we really blame Todd Howard? As you said, if he didn't believe in the product, he certainly couldn't tell anyone because that would be his job.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is that, let's look at Oblivion, for instance. The biggest controversy with Todd Howard was when he did the E3 demo for Oblivion, and he talked about how nothing here was scripted, how everything was based on this Radiant AI engine, which I believe that he felt strongly about. But the game was hardly ready by the time they went in there. And it was freezing, it was crashing, it was a mess at the time. and it was still a mess on release. But it was, it was very exciting, and it was very easy to sell that idea with this scripted scene that they showed off in EA, where this lady welcomed you to her shop, and then you were led into the back room. She played with the dog a little bit, and then you went outside. You heard about this Daedra attack in Kavach, so you got to go off an adventure. It was all very organic feeling, and it's something that could have happened within the engine, provided they had another year to work on the game, that they didn't. So I feel that, as far as modding goes, like, yes, you can fix a lot of the problems they have. The problem is that at the end of the day, you're subject to their engine. And that engine is going to cause... is the most limitations ever. Like, everyone wants to make a Skyrim that is larger than the Skyrim you have. Period. And, but the thing is that if you go outside of Skyrim's borders, about, I believe it's like 200 or 300 paces, then scripts stop functioning. It's a limitation of the engine. And so, unlike Morrowind, where you can make this colossal world, we can basically add all of Morrowind in, whereas Vardenfell was the only part of Morrowind. Unlike that, if you try that in the Skyrim engine, the game breaks. The mods people want to make, they cannot make within the existing engine. And most of Bethesda is beholden to this engine. They can't expand it, they can't make it too much better. They have to make it work with their scripting engine. They have to, all this stuff they have to do. Now, Mike in the chat is saying it was removed because AI was batshit insane. Remember, a guard decided to go hunting instead of buying food, abandoning his post. The other guards decided to arrest him. Well, that's not quite what happened, but yes, the idea is that the Radiant AI was supposed to be more alive than it was. And I have a feeling that would put a lot of strain on the scripting engine, because remember, Skyrim can barely handle the scripting it has. So when you figure that all in, you understand why, like, Todd Howard's creative vision wasn't able to be seen, but he was still speaking from that vision. And it's unfortunate that that you have, I guess, not even the capability to mod these things in. That's what I want to say. Is, we're talking about modding most of all, and they're stuck with an engine that barely does what they want it to do. Because let's face it, optimizing games is difficult. I think anyone who's developed games knows that. And so the result is, how do we make these games good? And the answer is always, we have to do with whatever is within our limits. Unfortunately, like, modders try to look past those limits. They try to extend what's possible within the game world. It's not about making the player stronger or weaker. It's about exceeding the game's limits, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I definitely agree. One thing I would like to kind of expound upon, like you said, with the scripting.
Mm-hmm.
Their scripting has a lot of problems in it. And I can see that being a huge problem from a modding perspective as well. For example, if you do things outside of what they expect, sometimes the script responds in very unusual ways.
Yes.
In Fallout New Vegas, for example, I've got a prime example of, there's a quest where you can either bomb or save the tram system. Now, the way I ended up doing the quest, like, kind of twisted their scripting engine in a way I don't think they had intended.
What'd you do?
Ended up being, well, what I ended up doing is I did the quest in such a way that I not only saved the tram, I then planted a bomb and blew up the tram. So thereafter, the game script kind of
Quest
adapted
states.
in. Yeah, it adapted it in a very strange way where people kept talking about, oh, thank God somebody saved the tram. But did you hear? Somebody blew up the tram. It's like, this is fantastic. I am just rolling with this. Everyone's got
Shit.
mixed opinions on what really happened.
Yes. Like, the Schrodinger's cat. The tram is both destroyed and safe at the same time.
Exactly. Obviously, they didn't intend for that. They didn't intend for somebody to kind of do the quest with 2 completion routes at the same time.
Yeah.
But I did it, and now the game's permanently got, wow, hey, good thing somebody saved the tram. And somebody else will say, hey, that's terrible. Somebody blew up the tram.
Yeah, I mean, well, one state should break the other, obviously, and make the other one. Yeah, but the thing is that damn, I was gonna say that just makes the makes it impossible. I was gonna say if it were designed well, and I don't think it was designed well at all.
Hey, I like the end result, but still I don't think it was intended at all.
I don't think it was intended either. I think that isn't the scripting engine. I think that is a developer oversight in terms of the quest states. Like, there's some weird stuff that'll happen with the scripting engine, but as far as, like, what happens within the particular quests, there are all kinds of possibilities.
I just hope if there is, well, when there is an Elder Scrolls 6, that they use a different engine. I've had so many issues trying to mod Skyrim in this engine. It's just, I've literally destroyed an entire computer. I had to rebuild my computer.
Okay.
Because, I don't know.
The thing is that the engine really isn't to blame like Gamebryo, which people will tell you Skyrim runs in the creation engine. That's wrong. Skyrim actually runs in the creation engine, which is a modified Gamebryo. It's Gamebryo.
Oh.
Okay, so basically, Gamebryo is the base engine. I've seen other games that were made in Gamebryo, such as a Ghost in the Shell first-person shooter. It's available on Steam. You can check it out. It isn't janky. It's good. It's Gamebryo. Congratulations. But the problem is that when you enter into the cell-based generation of Skyrim, and you combine it with Papyrus, the scripting engine, and the Havoc physics engine, then you get insanity. And that's pretty much what Skyrim is, the result of these 3 engines combined, basically. So
I'm having a horrible issue with my current playthrough, and I literally, I've tested all the mods. I've had these same exact mods running in the same order multiple times. Now, every time I go into a dungeon, I lose everything except the ground I'm walking on. Once in a while, they'll, just walls and ceilings and everything will pop in. But for the most part, I'm literally just walking in a dead space with a ground underneath me.
That sounds like missing textures.
Yeah, I can't figure out where. I've reinstalled everything.
You've reinstalled Skyrim itself?
Yes. Yes.
Have you... I know this sounds weird. You said you got a new computer. Have you tried porting the entire save over to the new computer and trying it there?
No, I have not.
That might be an option to check out. I mean, it's very possible that your new computer, it might be your hardware. Because if your video card is having issues, it might be omitting the textures. I'm just saying.
It's a brand new video card, but it's. I mean, anything's possible.
People have had brand new video cards, but still gotten the solid color lockup on Windows 8.1, which means that there's a video card problem. And defective chip on the board. It happens.
That would be very frustrating.
Yeah.
You do get a manufacturer's warranty on your graphics cards, although you do have to send the card back and wait for a new one to be shipped to you.
Yeah,
but
I don't really have that issue. I have somewhat of an overflow of graphics cards.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, try swapping out the graphics card, see if that fixes the problem. Otherwise, try it on a brand new computer, see if the processor or the RAM isn't the problem.
Okay.
You know. But getting back to the concept, I mean, I'm looking at this and I really don't know what to say other than that Bethesda has the opportunity to make some really good games and focus on modding, but money talks, and money is not in modding, at least until they get a new paid mod system running. And I'm pretty sure that they're going to obey their corporate overlords.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, as far as does it ruin games? No, hell, it fosters communities, and it allows a game to survive long beyond when it was viable. Games themselves have been... how do I put this? Like, their limits are transcended. New content for them is created. New quests, new journeys. You know, say a 200-hour game, you know, like Skyrim. If you really go balls to the wall in the Radiant quests, you know, you max out at about 200 hours. But with mods, you can go excess of 2,000 easily.
I'm at 1,500 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I thought let me see what I'm at on Steam for Fallout New Vegas unmodded. Pulling that up right now. So you got me curious. Let's see. Fallout New Vegas on Steam alone, I have 710 hours.
Yeah.
So,
wait till you start mixing mods into that.
I was gonna say, try installing Project Brazil and going through the Brazilian wasteland, like do all the quests there. You know what I mean? The point is that, you know, you do Tale of Two Wastelands, and now you're playing Fallout 3 in the New Vegas engine with all the New Vegas improvements to Fallout 3. You know, how much time do you put in then? I'm just saying. Like, I know you're a huge Fallout fan, so
absolutely.
Modding can do some amazing things for you, provided you obviously have that mod organizer installation where you can switch back to the vanilla profile. So when you're doing a guide or something, you know, you can do it for the regular people.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because as you said before, trying to do like a guide or walkthrough, unless you're doing it for a particular mod, doesn't really work. I mean, you could do like a Fallout Dust, you know, walkthrough guide. I'm sure that would help the people that are playing that, but you know, you couldn't do a Fallout New Vegas all mod mega walkthrough because it just would not work.
It would only apply.
It potentially could if you took, you know, the top 5 quest mods and added them in, and you know what's rated as the best overhaul and things like that. There's ways to do it. Yeah,
I mean there are the best perk overhauls that you could use that add more perks to the game, such as I created a character for Fallout New Vegas called the Schizophrenic Junkie Wastelander, or SJW, and she went around, like, the whole point was like whenever she got below a certain health threshold, a perk would kick in where she'd immediately open up a bottle of booze and chug it. So like it just immediately, like, it would do the Vault Boy with the swirly eyes, and like you reach for a bottle and drink it, and then you gain 30% of your health back for every bottle you chug. Yeah, of course you get inebriated for the result, but basically it allowed you to have as much health as you had booze on you, and the character worked out very well. But these like, I had the racist perk, right? Because I set her as African American as her race, but then I made her skin white. So she, with the racist perk, she would do more damage against anyone who wasn't her race, which was African American. So she would do less damage against black people, and more damage against people her own color. And that was the SJW. So it was a lot of fun, but it could only be accomplished via these expanded perk mods. And so when I explain it to people, like, oh, that perk doesn't exist, what are you talking about, you know? So yeah, I mean, for conventional people, like, they wouldn't be able to do those things, period.
my last playthrough of Skyrim, and I was so upset. I had it on a 3 terabyte hard drive, just all the save game, all the recorded footage,
Hmm.
and it ended up getting bricked, and I lost everything.
Oh.
But I played as a female character. Her name was Biona Bitch Tits. My daughter actually named her, and
Oh.
her backstory was she was a prostitute and a skooma addict, and she was being executed because she gave all kinds of horrible venereal diseases to the High King. And in the process of being
uh,
executed is when she found out she was the Dragonborn. And the whole thing, I forget the name of the mod, but it was the mod where, you had to get physically addicted to skooma. So I did the entire playthrough of the main storyline as a skooma junkie who had to have her skooma fix every 30 to 40 minutes in game time.
yes, that is amazing and horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, are you talking about the skooma horror mod by chance?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that is from the magical site, which we don't usually talk about. But yes, that there is the okay. So there's the Steam Workshop, which is a very badly designed way to get mods. That's by Bethesda.
Yeah.
There's the Nexus, which is a better way to get mods, provided you replace their mod manager with Mod Organizer, which does it better. Then there's a Japanese site, which I don't remember the name because it's in Japanese, but they have all kinds of interesting models and things. And then there's another site called LL, and we don't talk about LL because they have porn advertisements on their actual page if you visit it. So I can't even show you a preview of the site. So yeah, that is the site where people who want, as someone said, dragon porn.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, it was right around the 1200-hour mark where I'm like, I'm running out of shit to do. A friend of mine told me about it. I'm like, I'll go give it a shot and see how it goes. And
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was twisted, but it was fun.
It's the darker side of modding.
Yeah.
The side that just wants to have nude character models.
Well, nude character models are attainable on the Nexus. That's not the
Yep.
problem.
Oh, really?
It's
yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say that I might as well just tell you flat out that there are mods that allow rape
Yeah,
and
oh, yeah.
bondage and slavery and
House mods.
Yes, all the things. Literally all the things. Pregnancy, yes. All the things.
Wow, and I thought nudity was going to be the darker side.
No. That's
Never
the
mind.
light. That's the lighter side.
That's the lighter side. Exactly. So
There is a monthly subscription or some kind of subscription to get the nude mods and the more touchy mods on the Nexus. But yeah,
Jeez.
this other site's a whole other world. It's like the dark web of Skyrim modding.
yeah, yes, indeed. But we're not going to talk about that much.
Nope.
We are instead, I think, reaching the end of this. I've got to go have dinner and other things, and then I'll be back later with more games. But before we go, let's go ahead and closing remarks. Anyone? What do you guys think? Do mods ruin gaming? Pauliem first.
They can. They definitely can. The silly, stupid mods, like I said, the Macho Man Randy Savage's Dragon mods and things like that. I tend to stick with the more lore-friendly mods, and then there's just the disgusting, hideous mods. There are ways that they can destroy games, and that's where people get that outlook. They assume that everyone that is installing mods are installing those stupid, ridiculous mods like Thomas the Tank Engine and things like that. Or that they're just perverts that sit in their mother's basement and that's how they get off, is watching characters in skimpy bathing suits and whatnot. And, but if you tend to stick with the more lore-friendly stuff, and especially your stuff, Sarek, I've loved watching your streams for a very long time, and it's actually an honor for me to be here, and I want to thank you for that again. But no, I don't think if they're done right, no. I think they extend lives of games. Like I said, Skyrim would have been done for me 4 years ago. So.
Yep. Now, as one who rarely uses mods but is kind of looking to get into them, what do you think, Rowan?
I don't think that mods are inherently evil. I can see why people might avoid them, whether it be the barrier of entry, kind of learning how to do it, or wanting a vanilla experience. For myself, I've got so many games to play. One of the reasons that extending the life of a game doesn't, hasn't really appealed to me is it's like, I've got so many games I need to go play. I just want to beat the game as it was designed, the artistic original vision. And then maybe someday when I feel like going back to that game, then maybe I'll mod. But I have never seen anything inherently evil or wrong with modding. It's got a great appeal to it. It's just definitely been something I've avoided strictly out of lack of experience, lack of time to get into modded games, and to a lesser extent, that wanting to just keep the game in its original, untouched, form. So that's kind of my whole thing in a nutshell. I hope I represent at least some percentage of the population that hasn't, or for whatever reason won't mod. For those reasons.
Yeah, I understand. Your stance seems to be a reasonable one. I mean, I personally will mod at any point. Like, when I did Dragon Age Inquisition, for instance, I heard everyone bitching about how there was this specific feature in it where you had to wait X amount of time for tasks to be done, for quests to be unlocked. And, I said, nope. And I immediately installed a mod that reduces the time delay for every single event in Dragon Age Inquisition to 0. So literally, whenever you had a quest to do, you just go to your command table, and if you had the power to the quote unquote requirements to issue that command, it would immediately be completed. There was no artificial delay in the amount of time it took to do things. And I find that most Skyrim, Fallout, any kind of mods are all about playing the game the way you want. I don't think it has anything to do with ruining games. I think it's everything to do with fixing them, and if somebody says you're playing the game wrong, well, then they can go fuck themselves, because you paid the money for that game. Now, there is a caveat. Online multiplayer games are subject to scrutiny when they are competitive. Because you don't want to ruin the online experience for other people. And that happens in multiplayer games when people get aimbots or wall hacks. I used to wall hack back in Team Fortress 1 for fun. It was hilarious. But keep in mind, I'm also the person who told people to type in the console command Gamma Gun, which would immediately cause their screen to turn completely white, and they would be unable to do anything. Because the word gun defaulted to 0, and keep in mind that Gamma 6 was like kind of dark, and Gamma 0 was full bright. So
that was you that
awesome.
did that to me back then. No.
Yes, I told people, like, if you type in the command Gamma Gun, you'll gain access to the ultimate Gamma Gun that will kill people. Like, they're like, oh, I gotta type that Gamma Gun. Their screen turned entirely white. They alt F4'd out of their game. When they came back in, the INI was saved, so it was still white. And most people didn't.
Awesome.
Most people back then didn't know how to edit their INI files. So
I fell prey to that once, so I'm wondering.
Yes.
I
Yes,
think
indeed.
I know who did that to me.
Yes, but the point is that I have always had a lot of fun customizing the game, but I can see how it can be ruined for other people in an online context. Go play Dark Souls and be really pumped about the PvP. I've never been pumped about Dark Souls PvP, by the way. I don't give a shit about the invasions. Either way, it's very easy to download what's called a trainer online, which is a mod that will more or less take control of your game. And what it will do is it will overwrite certain memory values, such as how much health you have left. And so you can enter a PvP arena, and or say arena, but you can just invade someone else and have unlimited health. That's pretty much it. So you go kill them, they're sad. And so people take pride in knocking invaders off a cliff. But if they're not in an area with a cliff, how do you handle that? Well, obviously you're screwed. You disconnect. You quit the game, and so that ruins your experience. So no, I'm not for quote unquote hacking in multiplayer games. There's a distinction, but I think that for single player games, you should be allowed to play the game however you want. Now, if you want to showcase that that modded game state to other people, you need to make it clear that I've disabled the lockpicking minigame in Skyrim. Instead, you bash locks open using your weapon skill, and it's the case if your weapon skill isn't high enough, you can't bash that lock, I do that all the time. Every playthrough, I use lock overhaul. So, I like having multiple options for dealing with locks. And I like the fact that I can balance it based on my weapon skill. Other people are like, oh, the lockpicking game is so easy. You can open master locks at level 1. And I'm like, nope. I actually changed that with lock overhaul to where if you don't have 100 skill, you cannot physically open a master lock. It's impossible. And they're like, what? But it's easy. Nope. The game physically prevents you from being able to do it because of the mod I installed. It makes the game more difficult in a way. And, so again, it's about customizing the game world to the way you want it. That's what I think. If it's a single-player game, you paid for the right to play it however you want. That's what I think. What do you guys think?
I agree. That's why I had one of my accounts on Grand Theft Auto. I had to buy the game again because I was using the Field of View mod. And I literally had my account banned. I wasn't playing online. I was playing single player only. And I now have a useless copy of Grand Theft Auto 5. So I am 100% with you. If you pay for it and you're playing the single player game, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want with it. Mm-hmm. With the exception of, making money off of it in illegal ways.
Yes.
Obviously.
No, absolutely. You are entitled to enjoy your game however you want. Once you've paid for it, if you want to put on all the cheats and have a super easy experience and just play it for the story, you are completely entitled to that, and how dare anyone else tell you that that is not the way you can enjoy your game. Same with, Zarek adding a bunch of mods on and making the game impossibly tough. How dare anyone tell him that that is not the way he can enjoy the game? Because really, at the end of the day, I think we're all gamers, and we all want to just have fun, however that may be.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. So, no, modding doesn't destroy games. Go away now. Pauliem, if people want to see more of your stuff, where can they find you?
I also have a Hitbox channel. It's hitbox.tv/Paulem30. We do open discussions every Monday night, random topics. I usually whatever comes to my brain throughout the course of the day. I have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/gamersover30. We do all kinds of random shit. I also write reviews for proclockers.com, different hardware reviews. So I just recently got permission to start doing unboxings and things like that, and video reviews of hardware, which I started uploading this week. So,
very good. Now, Rowan, where can we find more of your stuff?
YouTube.com/Rowan. If anyone out there watching is big into min-maxing, especially right now, Fallout New Vegas, please come check out my Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Build Guide. You might learn a few things. So that's a lot of what I do is min-maxing games.
Well, sounds good. I'd like to have both of you on again at some point, for sure, because this has been a fun discussion. I know I did most of the talking, but still, I felt that there was some good input from both of you.
Well, thank you for having me. I had an absolute blast, and I'd love to come back anytime.
Absolutely.
I've had a great time, and I've enjoyed doing some podcasts with Zarek before and a few live stream gaming, so I definitely would love to be back.
All right, well, we'll be hearing Rowan again on the Migrant Thought podcast. We'll be doing another episode of that eventually, and just keep an eye out for that. But for the rest of you, thank you for watching. I'm going to go have dinner and do some family time. And then I'll be back playing other games later. And to you, Paulem and Rowan, thank you for coming. And I'll chat with you on Skype a little more. See you later.
Absolutely.